Hey guys, I bet you didn't expect that from a Taylor Guitars introduction. It's Jack here from Peach Guitars. We're still at NAMM 2020. One of our last stops of our trip is with our friends at Taylor Guitars. And look who we managed to land a few minutes of time with, Mr. Andy Powers, the main man behind a lot of the fantastic designs that we've been seeing from Taylor Guitars in recent years. Andy, it's great to meet you. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes to have a chat with us.
Hey, you bet.
And what we're going to do is just run through, we've got a selection of 4 of the new 2020 models from Taylor. Yeah. You're the best guy to ask about this because obviously you have probably masterminded most of the significant changes that have gone into this new lineup. So if you don't mind, if we could just start with kind of the guitar that you're holding.
Sure.
And we'll walk through and you can talk us through your thoughts, your philosophies on guitar design, all that good stuff.
All right.
Whatever you want to talk about.
Fair enough. Okay, so with this guitar, this one's a 912 model. Now, all of these instruments, they're pieces that we're adding to what has become a collection, what we call our Builder's Edition collection. The idea behind that is we want to make more distinct and unique guitars to put into the hands of players. And so using the VClass internal architecture that we introduced a few years back, it gives us a lot more kind of freedom to create different sounds on purpose. So with these guitars, what you find is they're not so much subtle shades of guitar sound, they're radically different approaches to the way a guitar is going to work for a player. So this particular model, it's unique in that it benefits somebody with a complex style. In a lot of ways, you could say it's like the acoustic guitar for an electric guitar player.
Okay.
You know, it's ultra fast responding, very quick transient response, super balanced over the entire register.
Mm-hmm.
Like so much to the degree that you have a hard time hearing the difference between wound and plain strings on the guitar.
Yeah.
You know, for somebody who's playing fingerstyle or jazz, or, you know, for the lead guitar player in your band, this is an unbelievably cool acoustic guitar for them.
Okay, so let me just jump in here with a bit of an idiot question for you. See if you can
Fair
humor me
enough.
on this one, right? So you're playing a 912. Anyone who's played a Taylor guitar in the past will probably know that one of the best qualities of it is its kind of musical dexterity and how articulate they can be.
Yep.
And obviously we've become familiar with the V-Class bracing and stuff like that now that's pushed that even further forward. My idiot question to you is, why change what already worked? So you said about making very deliberate, quite drastic changes. What is it that you think might be appealing to guitar players about these new technologies that you're trying to pioneer?
For me, it's taking a personality of a guitar and making it become more like itself. It's giving that guitar a more distinct identity. So using the existing 912 model as an example, we know it has good balance, we know it has a beautiful articulation. Using the V-Class architecture and the unique contouring of this guitar, we can make it a little more comfortable to play, a little faster responding under your hands, and even more linear in its response curve. So it's kind of like taking that guitar and making it a more concentrated version of itself.
Sure, yeah. And you outlined very clearly there who you think that might be of benefit to most.
Yeah, I think of it that way because this guitar, it has an almost electric guitar-like balance. Like on the high part of the register, every one of those notes will have a very linear, uniform characteristics to it.
Yeah, and I think I've heard you talk about before that it's almost like a kind of harpsichord effect on those higher notes, you know, where it's so clear and percussive. You know, a lot of us are kind of used to that inconsistency of tone and volume, and that's something that V-Class has definitely brought out and very well demonstrated in that guitar.
So as a companion piece, we've built this 652 12-string version.
Nice.
So I think of it in many of the same ways as the 912, in this case built with maple and spruce, with this kind of beveled cutaway for high fingerboard access, the armrest, shorter 12-fret neck length. But in this case, we've even adopted the electric guitar style reverse stringing, so the fundamental string is closest to the player.
Okay.
And so in a lot of ways, it has that, like that classic Beatles, Byrds, Tom Petty kind of 12-string response. You know,
Would you say it's a little bit of a faster response maybe than a traditional acoustic 12-string because you're hearing that high harmonic first, I guess, if you're strumming down?
Yeah, exactly. In this case, to me, it's more fundamental forward. So if depending on how you articulate the strings, it almost sounds more like a 6-string guitar with a little extra shimmer,
Yeah.
rather than the classic 12-string acoustic jangle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I play an upstroke, okay, that sounds a little more like the 12-string guitar you're familiar with.
Yeah.
If I go the other way,
Yeah, there's a difference.
it's a
There
difference.
is a difference.
It draws a different style out of the player. You'll be more inclined to play it melodically. It's a whole different type of a sound.
Yeah, and this speaks to your technique as well, but just as you were playing there, you started to dig in a little bit, and the thing really came alive. And that, again, speaks to, like, I think the power of the V-Class bracing as well as some of the other kind of improvements and things that you were just talking about with the design of that guitar.
Yeah, it's a really unique, dynamic type of instrument.
Yeah.
Now this guitar, this one's a 324. It's fairly similar in some ways to the other Builder's Edition guitars that we've launched, the 614 Builder's Edition, the K14. In this case, perhaps a little less lavishly ornamented. It has a solid mahogany top. One of the most exciting attributes for me is the material that we're using for the back and sides.
Right.
Now this is a wood that's new to the conversation altogether. This wood's coming out of what we call an urban forest.
Okay.
Now, what the heck is that?
Indeed.
That's the question on everybody's mind. If you look at any city in the world and you mentally deleted all the buildings, what you're left with is an urban forest. You have trees. Every city in the world plants trees. They maintain them, they prune them, they water them, and at a certain point those trees become elderly and they are removed. They're taken out before they fall over onto a building or onto a roadway or something, and they're replaced with younger trees. Well, rather than allowing those to be just mulched or turned into firewood or something, we started looking at this a number of years ago as maybe this is an untapped resource that's just right under our noses.
Yeah.
Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can build instruments that intentionally include these elements as part of their design.
Yeah.
So this is one of the first guitars, this is the first guitar that we're introducing that's using wood sourced from municipal areas.
And that's perfect for the time that we're in, where environmentalism and kind of renewability is so important as well.
It is. I mean, we've got all these different forestry projects that we're working on, and that's all wonderful work to do, and they're all very long-term outlook projects.
Yeah.
And so we look around and go, okay, what else is there? What else can we be adding into this that is a really ecologically sound source and resource? How can we change this conversation? What can we add? What value can we add? Because typically these trees are just lost. You know, they're turned into mulch. But we could build something of lasting value from that resource and make good use of it.
Well, let's have a quick listen to the results of that then.
Absolutely.
Very nice. Very
Thanks.
nice. And, you know, it's I think the thing that's going to excite a lot of people is the fact that you've turned your attention to what's designated as a 3 series guitar. Because previously, you know, the Builder's Edition stuff has always been way up there. And it's obvious that the attention to detail is still there. But what kind of, you know, lands that guitar in a 3 series for you?
For me, it's taking away some of the lavish ornamentation. So it's a very straightforward guitar in some respects, but we put all of our guitar making effort towards the things that really count for making it a useful musical instrument. You make it sound good, you make it play good, you make it feel good.
Yeah.
I want people to be using that instrument and actually going and playing their songs on it.
Yeah.
You know, that's what any of these instruments are for, And if we can make that at least somewhat approachable for a musician, and that really excites me as a guitar maker.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of people will appreciate that they don't necessarily have to reach quite to the same budgetary requirements as some of your other output.
Man, honestly, a lot of it is for my friends. A lot of my musician friends, and a very expensive instrument, it just can't work for them.
Right.
And that's not their reality. That's not the reality of everybody. But I want them to be playing a great instrument.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that drives us.
Perfect. Well, speaking of a great instrument, this is something that's completely different.
There's
and I think
something that's a little different here.
Threw some people for a loop, maybe the fact that there's not one hole on this guitar, but in fact two, which hopefully you can see.
I've actually taken a lot of effort to try and hide it as much as I can because I don't want the guitar to seem unfamiliar to a player. So this is meant to look somewhat like a Florentine cutaway.
Yeah.
To the degree that we're making this cutaway piece out of ebony and finishing it like the front of the fingerboard so that it looks almost like a shadow. You want it to feel familiar.
Yeah, I have to say, in some of the media that we saw before I actually saw these guitars in person, it was very much emphasized. Yeah. But actually in person, it's not as drastic as you think visually, but sonically.
I don't know. It's really unique.
I haven't heard it yet.
Okay, so maybe I'll play it first then.
Okay.
So this guitar has it's like a lyrical quality to it. And that's something that's unique to the Grand Symphony body shape. That's what this is based on.
Right.
And as we started to adapt the VClass architecture across different body sizes, we came to this one. I went, this one needs to be a almost symphonic kind of a sound. It needs to be an orchestral sound.
True to name of the
yeah,
model. Yeah,
exactly. It has to be like the vocalist of guitar sounds. Mm-hmm. And so the way that we're using the air that's inside this body to kind of present every one of the notes to the listener is a really unique experience. It's a guitar that really, you almost have to play it to understand it, because I don't think I do a very good job describing it. This one, it has a little shorter scale length, even smaller strings than what we would normally use on a larger body guitar like this.
Okay.
Because it's working in such a different way to produce this sound, this unbelievably complex air pattern that the thing's creating.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'd like to get my hands on it myself as well and test it out, but just from where I'm sat, the way you put it of being more lyrical, I think is dead on. It's got a lot more kind of pronunciation on each note. Mm-hmm. And something that's quite striking, I think, is for such a large body size, normally you associate that with having to work quite hard to get those delicate kind of single note stuff that you were getting out of it there. You have to work a little harder, but you were as relaxed as you were on the grand concert size.
Yeah, in this case, this guitar actually responds beautifully to a delicate touch. In fact, the more delicate you approach it, the richer the character of the guitar becomes.
Right, okay.
So it has a huge amount of dynamic range, but man, when you play it delicately, that's where it really starts to blossom.
That definitely came across, yeah. But I imagine that giving it some beans as well.
Oh, it works just fine. Yeah, you can do that all day long. And in a way, it's one of the more flattering guitars we've built.
Right.
Because the front edge of every note has a certain musical softness around it, where there's no harsh edges or real brittle sounds that come out of it.
Right.
So if you're a strummer, you're playing songs for your kids when they fall asleep at night or whatever it is, and this is a guitar that ends up being really easy to listen to.
Yeah.
It's really flattering for a lot of playing styles.
Sure. Yeah, that definitely comes across. And so obviously you've worked very hard on refining the bodies on a lot of these new models. Have you made any changes to the neck to compensate?
Not radically. There have been some subtle additions and deletions, One of the things that we're starting to do on certain models, particularly the 912, is treating the fingerboard edge with a little different rollover to aid in a real quick, fast responding neck.
Okay, nice. And do you think that tonally there's anything that, in your experience, is there anything that you look for in tweaking a neck design as well? Or do you focus mainly on kind of the lower end?
The whole thing, the whole guitar has to be thought of as a unit. It's a cohesive piece. We never play just a body or just a neck.
Of course.
What you hear is the entire guitar working together.
Yeah.
So we look at every instrument as a total system, from tuning keys to bridge pins.
Mm-hmm. The only reason I ask that is because there's so much attention paid to the combination of body woods and bracing patterns and things like that, and so sometimes the top end of the guitar gets neglected a little bit.
Yeah.
But you don't seem like a man that neglects any part of a guitar.
To me, everything matters.
Yeah.
It all is important.
Well, I think that definitely comes across, and that guitar, of all of the guitars we've heard today, probably symbolises that the best. You've
thank you.
taken something completely radically different, and it's not like you're trialing this. This is in production. You guys are going to be able to receive them. Are they on? I think this features on a couple of different models. Is that right?
Yeah, we're using it on this 816 Builder's Edition for now, as well as our K26 guitar.
Okay.
And eventually in the future, we may expand it outward from there.
Sure.
But right now, it is difficult to build, so we're keeping it to just those two models for the moment.
Yeah. Okay, well, guys, you know what to do. Get down to Peach Guitars as soon as you can. Get your hands on one of these things. I'm hoping to do so myself very soon. We will be recording sound clips as well as the clips that you just heard of Andy playing.
Wonderful.
So, I think there's a lot of good stuff here from Taylor Guitars for 2020. Thank you, Andy, for being so gracious. It's great to talk to you, and, couldn't have asked for better insight into these guitars. So
it's my pleasure.
Much appreciated. Enjoy the rest of NAMM. We certainly will. We're almost there, but this was a great way to end our NAMM Saturday. So thanks, Andy.
Awesome.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned if you want any more content, and if you want any more info on Taylor Guitars, of course, head to peachguitars.com.